Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence, a place for like-minded and open-minded individuals seeking to better themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I want to talk about something that I think I've touched on in the past, but I want to really go in detail about it, which is about taking your ideas and feeding and nourishing and nurturing them. So when you have an idea or a piece of wisdom that comes to you, it's important to see these as almost like clouds passing in the sky, right? Like the same cloud in the sky is not going to be there the next day or maybe even in the next hour. And so the angels and guides are explaining to me that these are fleeting treasures, right? I mean, imagine like a piece of gold passing you by. You would take it, right? You wouldn't just set it down somewhere. You would take it, you would put it away, you would, deposit it, right? And so with these ideas and pieces of wisdom, it's really important for you to make an intention right now to catch them and nurture them and not to let them pass you by. And so you may have recently been noticing that you have a wide variety of pieces of information that come to you, and you wish that there was one place where you could keep a collection of all of these pieces of information. And some of you may be doing this, like you may be journaling and you may be pretty diligent about, making a note about ideas when they come in. And if that's the case, your angels and guides are urging you to consider a more official and intentional way of collecting your information. For example, in a book or, some kind of masterpiece or album that reflects all of those pieces of information, some kind of portfolio or whatever it may be. And to really lean into that creative spark and allow that passion to expand, because this creator energy is the source energy that we are all made of. And to tap into that is to tap into your divine self. And when you tap into your divine self, you become the co-creator to a reality that you dream and desire of. And that feels good, right? So that's what we want. So if you are feeling like, you're just so busy, and when a thought comes to you, sometimes you write it down, sometimes you don't, your angels and guides are really encouraging you to prioritize those ideas, because it really is a way to honor yourself by saying, you know what, I thought of something, I had a creative spark, I want to honor that and make space for that, rather than ignoring it because of whatever task at hand you're doing. Because the truth of the matter is, when those creative nuggets of gold come through, you're really not doing anything more important than giving them your attention. So, on a similar note, I want to talk about this feeling and concept of taking up space, right? Like when you have a creative idea and you write it down in your notepad, and that idea is taking up space on your note, right? It's taking up space that you're going to have to read that note later. It's taking up physical space in the note. It's taking up energetic space, whether it's like mental or even maybe emotional, when you are reading it back later, because it makes, you reevaluate what that piece of information was, what you're going to do with it, what it's leading you to. And while, of course, there could be some pieces of information or creative ideas that, don't that are, like it's like planting a bunch of seeds. Not all of them are going to sprout and bloom, but it's important that we at least try to plant the seed rather than storing them away in some drawer somewhere, right? And maybe the farthest that the seed gets is just being written in your notes app, and that's totally fine as long as you are following your intuition and being true to yourself and following your passions as to which seeds you want to, prioritize or focus on. But what I'm getting here is that I'm seeing this visual of driving down a one-way road. I should say it's not like a one-way street, but it's like a road that's only wide enough for one car. But it's intended for cars to travel down that road in both directions, which is a pretty stressful feeling because you're driving through this road, and if somebody comes, from the other direction, somebody has to pull over and let the other pass, and there has to be kind of like this crossroads moment of how you guys are going to pass and carry on your way, right? But the analogy I'm trying to get at here is that if that were to happen, you will address that in that moment, right? It's like we cross that bridge when we get there. But what I'm seeing is that when you do not nurture these pieces of information and you do not write them down, or you do not, because really at a minimum, your angels and guides are just asking you to write down the pieces of information. Maybe you get a creative idea. Maybe you get a piece of wisdom or a piece of good advice. The first thing, and really the only thing, is to just write it down so that you can remember it. Then later, you can figure out how and where you want to nourish that seed. But my analogy really means like by writing it down, you are already planting the seed, because at least you've given it a space for it to maybe it's just going to sit there. Maybe it's going to grow into something later, but at least you've planted it. You've written it down. You've captured that fleeting thought and you have documented it. And in that sense, you have given it physical space that you can then determine how you want to further nourish it down the line, right? But it is so important to take up that space, even if it really is simply just writing it down somewhere and not doing anything further. And the analogy I'm getting with the car on the street is that if you're driving down this street and you're the only car there's nobody oncoming that you can see, it's just you. If you drive to now, and this isn't a perfect analogy to the about planting the seed by writing down the idea in your notes, for example, but I'm trying to paint this picture of driving down this street that's only wide enough for one car, but like trying to drive to the side of the street like as far as you can, because just in case somebody comes by and you don't want to take up too much space. And by doing so, you're driving up against the curb or, the tree, like the bushes on the side of the road. I'm kind of seeing like a jungle area in this scenario. And the trees and the bushes are scraping against your car and scratching them for no reason, right? Because if you were to just drive in the center of the road, then there's space for you to do that. And there's no reason for you to hide yourself or put yourself off to the side to make room for other things, right? So like in this analogy, an oncoming car could be another task that you choose over writing down these fleeting ideas when they come to you, right? If there's no oncoming car that is forcing your attention, right? Like, because if you get an idea and you choose not to write it down, whatever you were doing instead, is it really necessary? Probably not. It's probably not that important, right? And similarly, if there's not an oncoming car, there's really no reason for you to be driving off to the side, scratching up your car as if there's someone coming or some greater priority for you to focus on. So I hope that this analogy makes sense, because I'm really trying to get the point across of being confident in taking up space. If an oncoming car comes, or if a task is really busy and it's a really urgent task, then you can just trust that, okay, I'm going to pull over. You can trust that there's a place for you to pull over safely that won't wreck your car or scratch your car. You can do so slowly and safely. You can handle the urgent task you're doing and trust that you'll remember the great creative idea later, because there are moments like that where our attention is distracted with this so-called oncoming car, right? Which is an analogy for these pressing urgent tasks that you're doing that prevent, now and then, like that truly are urgent, that prevent you from, writing down your good ideas. I mean, like maybe you're driving, or maybe you're in the middle of a phone call, like with an important client, or, I'm not talking about, I was doing the dishes and I just was like, I'll write that down later. Like, no, stop doing the dishes and write down your idea. But yeah, of course, if you're driving or if you're on the phone with somebody and you can't multitask, right? Then yeah, there's an oncoming car and we have to give our full attention to that. Pull over safely, slowly, not in a way that's gonna, scrape your car against the bushes and trees on the side of the road. Address it, let them pass, and then you can go on taking up space and nurturing those creative ideas. So I hope that this analogy makes sense. I know it seems like very different analogies of planting seeds, driving down a narrow road, but these analogies came to me and I just found them to be really powerful because of just the importance of really honoring ourselves. And, when we speak about rituals and we think about how much of our lives do we spend feeling the way we want to feel, and how much of our lives, are we out of that time in our lives that we're not feeling how we want to feel. Most of it could be changed just by us simply making that choice to, nurture our ideas, follow our creative passions, make space and silence, and just stop and pause every now and then to just feel and practice feeling, because, feeling abundance and joy really is a practice. That's why meditation is considered a practice, right? Because you're not just going to perfectly do it every day, but it's the committing to the daily, hourly, whatever practice of slowing down and checking in with yourself so that you can become so strongly in touch with who you are and what your soul desires. And that's what's going to lead you to a soul-driven life and to the abundance and fulfillment that your soul truly is seeking. So I'm going to leave this message here. I really hope it resonated with somebody. I'm going to go back to my tarot readings very soon. I just have had a lot of downloads that I've been sitting with, like over this eclipse period. But I definitely have a lot of collective energies that I want to tap into, especially those of romance. So I will be doing those soon. And yes, I will leave this here. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.